Do you love the Marvel Cinematic Universe or do you hate it? Most people nowadays fall into one of those two categories, but you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody who hasn't seen at least one MCU movie. And regardless of your opinion on them, there is no question that over the last decade, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has had a huge impact on pop culture and modern storytelling. So today we're going to take a deep dive and look at the MCU as a whole and find out whether or not it deserves the coveted title of a modern myth. Let's do it. The MCU is most definitely not without its flaws, but it also has had more hits than misses. Just look at so many other franchises. They all drop off by the second or third sequel, and their studios are always left panicking, trying to figure out how to course correct. Oh God. So there's absolutely a reason why the Marvel Cinematic Universe has stuck around for as long as it has, and it's the same reason that stories of Greek, Egyptian, and Norse mythology still exist today. They spark our imaginations, they inspire us, and they make us reflect on our own humanity. Each myth has specific elements that drive us to pass the stories on for thousands of years and to keep them alive. Now, not every story can be classified as a myth, so really quickly, let's look at what makes a story a myth. A myth must transcend generations, meaning that someone of any age can find value in it. It has to reflect humanity, to caution us against falling prey to our own weaknesses, while also revealing our strengths and potential as human beings. It incorporates supernatural elements. Now, this can take many forms, such as gods, monsters, extraordinary abilities, or talking animals, but it has to represent the existence of something greater than the natural man. And finally, a myth has to stand the test of time. Whether that's by being passed from generation to generation or by being retold and reinvented to fit a different time period or society. It has to adapt, grow, and live beyond its original incarnation. So let's go deep into how the MCU adopts these elements and uses each one of them to the fullest. The MCU came out guns blazing all the way back in 2008 with Iron Man, which was an instant hit. It had a little bit of everything. Great action, humor, a lot of heart, and a fresh take on the classic hero's journey. Audiences of all ages flocked to the theaters, and it continues to be an MCU favorite among many fans. The formula seen in Iron Man is something that the MCU has continued to follow throughout the rest of its films and sequels, and it's clearly working. It's easy to see that this massive, interconnected story has transcended generations and is adored by fans of all ages. I mean, even if we just look at the merchandise, it ranges from baby clothes to toys for kids, all the way to mega expensive screen-accurate collectibles for adults. Box office records aren't broken by a single age group going to see a movie. Records are smashed when it becomes an age, gender, and race agnostic experience. I mean, when have you ever sat in a theater and had an experience like this?
Avengers! Assemble.
Goosebumps, man. I mean, hit the like if you know what I'm talking about. It's just a rare and a special experience that you're not really gonna have in many theater experiences. So why do these stories resonate with audiences from all generations? Well, it's because each one of them reflects humanity, and they do it through incredible characters. The MCU has an insane number of heroic characters, and each one has relatable flaws that, while sometimes being represented by something fantastical, are things that we as human beings can see in ourselves. For example, Captain America. He's a man out of time, learning that there is much more gray area between the black and white of morality than what he originally thought. Or Iron Man. He's a genius billionaire who is faced with the challenges and consequences of responsibility and personal sacrifice. Black Widow is an assassin who's trying to redeem herself and make up for the wrongs she's committed in her mysterious past. Hulk is a scientist who's battling for control with a part of himself that he hates the most and understands the least. Thor is a god who's slowly coming to realize that he's not invincible and can actually lose. And the list goes on and on and on and on. But through every story they've told over the years, we've watched each and every one of these characters struggle and eventually grow and overcome their individual challenges as they go through their individual and sometimes collective heroes' journeys. They inspire us to see some of those same weaknesses in ourselves and follow their example of overcoming them in our own realities. It's like putting a mirror up to the weaknesses of the world we live in and exploring them through bombastic entertainment. Sure, you can look at these characters and the grand story they're in at face value, and in doing so, it may just feel like junk food cinema, or as Martin Scorsese has so famously stated, not cinema at all. However, I'd argue that there's incredible depth to these characters that's there to dig into and explore for those who want and choose to look beyond the popcorn and spandex and marketing of the whole experience. But even though there are a lot of lessons to be taught through self-reflection, like all great myths, it's dressed in a larger-than-life garnish that entertains us and entices us through the supernatural. The MCU touches on almost everything you possibly could when it comes to the supernatural. I mean, it's got literal gods battling it out in space, people turning into monsters, superheroes, aliens, talking animals, Jeff Goldblum in space.
Let's stop there. You know what? I woke up this morning thinking about a public execution. I did. I really did.
It's a mashup of magic and science and all of these insane elements that really shouldn't work together, but somehow they do. This is what draws us in, spectacle that captivates us, that continues to push the envelope farther and farther through VFX and cinematography. This is what we go to Marvel movies for, but we stay for the heart, for the characters. And that's why it's continued to stand the test of time. For the last decade, we've shown up as an audience over and over again because they keep delivering. It doesn't hurt that it's one massive, interconnected, continuous story. What I mean is that it's greater than the sum of its parts. Like, even if a film comes out that isn't your favorite, you already know that a handful of others are on the way, and odds are that you'll find some kind of value in at least one of them. The MCU can't really fail at this point, because even if there are a few weak links, each story builds on the next and adds to the grander story. I mean, just look at Thor: The Dark World. Most of us thought that that movie was garbage, and then Endgame comes out and all of a sudden Dark World ends up playing a crucial role and adding depth to a character arc that we never could have gotten had that film not existed. So even if the future films were to drop tremendously in quality and lose its audience, the films of the past and the huge story that was the Infinity Saga will always exist. Even still, the MCU isn't slowing down anytime soon. Now branching out with streaming series that are being treated with the same importance as the films, the story continues to grow and grow. Needless to say, whether you're a fan or you're not, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has changed the game for modern storytelling and is absolutely a modern myth. Like I said, the MCU isn't slowing down and has a huge year ahead of it. Their storytelling expansion will begin this next week with WandaVision, which I will be reviewing as soon as the first 2 episodes drop. So hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any of those videos. You can also check out this other video where I discuss the future of another modern myth, Star Wars, and I talk about my predictions on how they'll follow the Marvel method of myth making. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I really, really do appreciate it, and I'll see you around.